Hey, Sooner football fans. This is your Sooner football fans podcast, and you got Terry and Rob here. Boomer Rob.
Boomer Terry.
And, we must be doing something right, living right.
It's me. I take all the credit.
Yeah, it's you. You're the one obviously living right. But we have in the podcast palace, as we call it. And why do we call it that, Rob? Because Teresa makes fun of us when we call it a studio, right?
Right.
So we had to name it something.
I think I agree with her, though. It's more of a podcast palace.
Yeah.
So I gave it away. Everybody knows now.
We have the one and only James Hale on with us. Boomer James.
Hey, Sooner. How you guys doing?
Fantastic. Thanks for coming on with us. This is
you guys are all over Twitter, and I'm on Twitter, and I picked up 700 Twitter followers after I, broke the news about Mike, and I was just shocked. And, so you guys seem to work Twitter a lot better than I do, because I'm going, why y'all people following me for? So
that's all Terry, I promise you.
But that's, you guys invited me, so
well, we
welcome
appreciate
aboard.
it.
I love Sooner fans. That's my whole life.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been dealing with people like you guys my whole life, and I try to be nice to everybody I can, because there's no reason. My dad said, hey, it just takes just as much energy to be mean than it does to be nice.
That's right. What a great attitude.
I've always handled that, so you guys do a great job.
Well, thank you.
One of the things, how long have you been doing this? Because I've been in Oklahoma City since 88. I'm from Oklahoma, grew up in McAllister, and I'm pretty sure you were doing it back in 88, weren't you?
No, I was doing it in 88. I got started in 1983 with my first job, or 82 with my first job. I did radio when I was at OU from 75 to 79. Then I went to graduate school and actually got a job, at actually KNOR. It's funny, I'm back in the same building now than I was at the very beginning. So I've been doing it a long time, and, got into recruiting because Al Eschbach was doing it at KTOK and the Oklahoma Midwest City Journal. The Journal was a great sports page. Right. Tom Dorado was there, Al Eschbach was there, and Mr. Martin was there. It was really, really good. And they talked about recruiting a lot, and I got caught with the bug, and I said, I wonder if I can get involved with this, and, did after listening to him on KTOK, and, started writing for Super Prep and started doing doing some things, and so it took off from there.
Yeah. So right now, tell everybody what you're doing. Where all are you at now?
Well, it's interesting because you always have to evolve, right? You always have to go somewhere. I've been doing radio at KREF in Norman, the Sports Talk Network, for a long time now. Mm-hmm. That's been about a 10-year gig or something like that. I lose track of time, but it's been a long time, and I really like working there. It's the best family in radio I've ever been a part of, and Ranley DeFoon is a great boss. And we work Norman. We cover high school. We cover women's sports, and that's kind of what I like to do, is cover everything. And nobody covers OU better than us. Right. And so that's great. Now we carry the Cleveland Browns, so that's pretty cool. So I'm on from 11 to 2 on Total Sports every day. That's sportstalk1400.com or 1400 AM or 99.3 FM. And then I was at OU Insider for a long time, but then ended up in a disaster, and I don't want to get into that story, but I wasn't, at the end, I wasn't treated very well, so I started Die Hard Sooner Report, and, that's a kind of a new concept. I've been thinking of the last 2 years, what's a better way to reach people than message boards? People are mobile, they're moving, they're always on the go. They're always doing something. Little Joe's game, little Sammy, Mary Ann's got a soccer match, and, we're going to cheerleading practice at the same time. And, I've got to do all this stuff. Right. And, you're going everywhere. So how do I keep up with my OU stuff? Well, you can turn on the radio, and turn on, KREF and listen to us. Or you can turn on another, sports show. But you can also dial up my podcast. Right. And I'm putting up 3 to 5 to 6 a day, and you can get the latest of what's going on at OU. I make sure I have 2 in the morning on, what's the latest that happened overnight. And then, throughout the day, if something breaks, like Coach Mike and the radio stuff today, and there's news at OU too. And so, you put another one up, and then you make sure you get a couple up in the evening, and people can dial those up, and, they're anywhere from 2.5 to 5 minutes long. Right. And then I'm really happy that the Football Brainiacs, I post 2 stories a week, and I'm working with them now. And, on Sunday after home games, we're going to be doing a video, a show on, what happened in the game and things like that. So, from the porch in Norman, which is Mr. Broyles, store. And so, Ryan's doing a great job doing what he's doing and everything. So, that's about all I can really handle. And so I'm hoping I can make a living doing these three things that take up all my time in my life and still be able to call recruits and cover OU and do what I do. So, it's a pretty full plate.
That in itself, keeping up with the recruits, I can't do it. I have tried this past year since we started the podcast. I get confused. I'm not the greatest with names anyway.
Well, if you want to stay married, don't.
Yeah.
I'm telling my second wife, said I feel like I'm by myself, and sooner or later we weren't together.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it's paying the bills. I don't really care. It's like, I'd like to have a life, and I say, I got you. So, covering recruiting has changed so much throughout the years. The fact that you can attempt to cover it is how much it's changed.
Right.
I mean, anybody can cover recruiting now. You can reach out to a recruit. You can DM him or her. If she or he gets back to you, then boom, you're communicating with the recruit. What's always interesting is that I've always said, okay, if you're a fan and you're a booster of OU, is that a problem? And, if you're contacting recruits, I don't think that's what OU really wants either. Now, I'm a accredited journalist.
Right.
What does that mean? Well, I've got a degree in journalism, and I've been credentialed in journalism, so I'm a accredited journalist. But it's changed so much today. I still like to call and talk to the recruits. It just gives me a better feel for what's going on and what they're saying. Many people just DM them, and I don't know if you know who you're talking to or not.
Right.
But you can say, well, James, do you know who you're talking to? Well, if I talk to them more than once that I do, but and I've never really had a time where somebody's tried to trick me on the phone. And most of the time now, I'm trying to get guys on my radio show or doing something like that. Or if I talk to them, I'm doing another podcast on, okay, I talked to so-and-so today. So covering recruiting is not easy. And when people want to get into it or they want to start a website, I always tell them, don't. Make sure your family's real solid. Everybody knows what you're doing. And you've really got the time to spend on it, because when you're spending all evening long and you're trying to get a hold of recruits, and in this day and age, if you get a hold of one or two, you've had success. I used to could get a hold of 8 to 10, and that's no joke. And I could really put up a lot of stuff. It's just changed. Kids talk to media all the time. They start when they're sophomores in high school. You've got media now traveling to interview them after practice. You've got
Huddle.
There's all kinds of things. And so they're dealing with media all the time, and it's an interesting deal. But you still got to bang it. You still got to work on it, and that's what people want. Yeah. And you still got to be knowledgeable of what's going on.
Well, when we first started the podcast, I said, and it's still a hobby, but I mean, it was, hey, we'll do 1 or 2 shows and we'll record them on Saturday nights or Saturday afternoons during the off season, and I'll put them out on Monday. Well, I ended up, we were doing 2 shows, wasn't it, Rob, when we first, 1, and then we started doing 2, but I was spending all day Sunday or half a day Sunday editing and getting the podcast ready to go out and putting the bumper music and all that stuff with it.
Yeah, but we were doing an hour long. Yeah. We were doing a bunch. So
and I went, I can't keep doing it. I'm taking up my whole weekend. I don't have anything to do. So we started doing it on, pick nights of the week. And so we were doing, and it's funny because you're talking about marriage, is, my wife, this was part of her idea too, was for us to do this podcast, but we do one on Sunday nights and Monday nights. And then Tuesday nights is the coaches show. Me and Rob have always gone to the coaches show at Rudy's. Yeah. Love doing that. And then we do one on Wednesday, and then we don't do another one until
you got to wait all
Sunday.
The games clear, right?
Right.
You got to hear what happened in the game before you can do another one. I would think so. If you guys are doing one Saturday evening, I wouldn't be here. I'd be going, I got a game to watch. I mean, come on.
Yep. So it's we have a annual, a regular ritual. We all, us and our friends, go to Buffalo Wild Wings on Thursday night. So my wife is like, pretty much I've got Friday with you, because Saturday we're watching the games. We're at the games.
And actually, that's keeping the marriage fresh, because she's going, that's all I need, honey, is 1 week. 1 day a week. We're good.
So, and this weekend, since there's no game, she's been
making plans to go with her girlfriend somewhere?
No, she's making plans for us to go somewhere. She's been looking for the last week. I said, hey, after Wednesday night, we're doing whatever you want to do. There's no games. As long as we're back by Sunday, so I can watch the Steelers play. So, but we're not.
Mess the Steelers have been. Wow.
Yeah, but hey, they turned it around a little bit this past weekend. Mm-hmm. But anyway, let's get into a little bit of football talk. And obviously the talk was going to be, we actually asked you on, and we want to talk about recruiting. We want to, talk about the state of recruiting, but what happened with Mike, Coach Stoops. I call him Mike like I know him.
Well, Coach Mike's who he is.
But
well, we've known him for how many years now? 18 or 19 years.
Right.
I made some little notes here, and I'm not good with notes, but I just kind of wanted to go through a timeline. Okay, last year, a lot of fans thought that Mike would either get fired or resign after the Rose Bowl.
Right.
Okay.
Which I knew it wouldn't happen.
Okay. We thought he would resign. Why
would he resign?
Because there was so much heat on him. The defense still hadn't performed. They were, 67th?
Yeah, but the heat's coming from you guys.
Yeah.
It's not coming from Lincoln. It's not coming from inside OU.
Right.
Nobody was forcing him to leave. But anyway.
Right. But I mean, and that's what we look at it from a fan's perspective.
Right.
Okay. And then,
there's, and I know this may not necessarily apply in football, but I was a regional director, and so now my boss is 10 or 12 years younger than I am because I'm not in the same field.
Right.
I'm not in my career field any longer, and so it's a little bit awkward that my boss is 12 years younger than me. So I thought that might
be a deal too.
Mike has been a head coach, and he's been a deco for a long time, and now here comes Lincoln, who's never been a head coach, and suddenly he's his boss. And I just thought it might be an awkward situation.
Yeah. And then I think with a lot of fans, again, he got a raise after that.
Okay, let's talk about last year after the Rose Bowl,
Right.
because there was a lot of speculation, and even when I was at OU Insider, I was getting attacked because I was reporting facts about what
Right.
was going on, because I did my due diligence. I checked and checked and checked and kept checking every day, every other day, and he wasn't going to get fired.
Right.
That's not what Lincoln wanted to do. Lincoln admitted this past Monday he never thought about firing
Right.
him. So all that noise, all that hammering, all that attacking that everybody got into when it came to Mike, that started all this, and it kept up all off season. It became such a terrible off season to be on a board or talk to fans about, because we couldn't do anything else.
Right.
If I wrote a story about the defense, and I could be talking about the jack linebacker, and Mike Stoops had a quote in it, and they would get back into this. Oh, he should be fired. They should get rid of him. Da 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 da.
Right.
People would call my radio show, and I'm going, look, this is not going to happen. He's going to be the defensive coordinator. Sometimes what's the mantra in the media, the general public, is not really what's going on. And
Right.
I've always taken it as my responsibility. Here's the truth. You want to listen to the truth? You want to know the truth? How about we talk about the potential of the defense?
Right.
Why don't we get into what the linebackers may look like? Nope, let's just fire Mike.
Right.
And that's what everybody wanted to do. Well, I think Mike's family pays attention to that a little bit, so Mike hears it in the background. But inside the program, there was never any thought about it. In fact, you're right. They doubled down with him.
Right.
They gave him a raise. They extended his contract. He brought in Bob Diaco to be an analyst. That was a great get. Here's a guy that's been a coordinator. He's been a head coach. He's kind of looking for his next thing to get into, and he's in between stops. Well, hey, why don't you work with us this year? Sure, I'll come to Oklahoma, and whatever the pay is for that, and I'll be around the program and look at you guys. That was a great get. He brought in Ruffin McNeil the year before, and Ruffin's the best defensive coordinator he knows.
Right.
Ruffin McNeil's his mentor. He's his guy. And so, from Lincoln's standpoint, as he doubled down, and he thought, and he was right. I'd think this too if I'm the head coach. Hey, I'm going to get involved a little bit. I'm going to help those guys. I'm going to tell them what I see a little bit more. And we're going to get this thing rocking and rolling. So that's what happened after the Rose Bowl. That's what happened through spring. But this mantra, this commentary just kept coming and coming and coming. But OU rightfully thought, and they really thought they were going to have a better defense this year. And I'm sure you're going to want to get into that at some
Right.
point. But that's what happened from the Rose Bowl all the way through. And some people just would not back off on it. And and maybe that was the foundation of the iceberg that tipped over this weekend, but the reality was there was never any thought whatsoever from Lincoln Riley to make a change with the
Right.
defensive staff.
And Rob and I have never, and we never will, I don't think, condone, talk about firing anybody. I've never talked about that. We've talked about on the podcast is that, trying to figure out what's going on. from a fan perspective, and then going, he didn't become a bad defensive coordinator all of a sudden. Something there, and we've gotten into the Twitter arguments with fans of going, look, the tackling, well, everybody's like, tackling is coaching. No, tackling, in my opinion, is effort. Okay, we had Rufus Alexander on here who basically said the same thing. If somebody's not tackling, if you're not wrapping up, that's on you. That's not on Coach Mike.
I agree with
it's
Rufus
not,
100%.
It's not on any throwing a shoulder into a guy trying to knock him down.
Makes no sense.
Yeah,
especially when you're 5'9", 183.
Right, I'm saying, I guarantee you, Mike Stoops, and Lincoln Riley are not standing there watching films of these games and watching and teaching those guys to do that, and they can't go out there and do it. And even Mike said that on one what he was saying is, I'm supposed to motivate and get them to do it, and for some reason it didn't work.
Well, in this day and age, even more so than ever before, guys, tackling is a mental mantra. You either want to do it or you don't. And either as a player, you're going to do it or you don't. Why does Iowa guys or Iowa State guys look like they tackle better than OU? It's because they either taught or they just among themselves or they were recruited this way. By God, I'm going to tackle that guy, and I'm going to form tackle him. I'm going to get my helmet, out in between, out in front of him. I'm not going to hit him head on. My helmet's going to go, side past his belly. I'm going to wrap him up, and I'm going to bring him down. Well, OU doesn't have that same mantra, yet they coach it every Monday and Tuesday. Now, you can only coach so much contact during the week, and that's an NCAA thing. But OU tries to work on it in imaginative ways the rest of the week. But why isn't getting through these kids? And that's what's frustrating Mike Stoops right now.
And that's where the fans are, I think.
Figure it out.
A lot of frustration in why can't they do this when other teams can. But I've only seen one guy ever that got away with not being able to tackle well. Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's because he covered and they hardly ever caught a ball against him.
Right.
And remember, he would complain to people that would complain about it. He'd go, I only have to tackle once a game.
Right.
It's like, come on. So, but it's a frustrating thing. But tackling's the main problem of the team, and we'll see if it improves just because Mike Stoops isn't there. But even if it does, even if Ruffin McNeil is able to convince these guys to tackle, then we'll give him a pat on the back for his communication skills maybe, or his ability to motivate, but it's not a fundamental thing.
Right.
He's not going to change fundamentals of how they tackle because they've been teaching those same fundamentals for the last 15 years at OU, and certain teams have tackled great. This group just doesn't.
Right. And it's, and then, the fans, and we're not one of the fans like that. I mean, we had the running joke that, we're not drinking the defensive Kool-Aid until we see the defense stand up and perform like we think they should, an OU defense. And it was, you have fans out there talking about, who would you put in? Here's what players I would play. And I'd always say, I don't know, because I don't see them every day. I don't know why so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so is back there in the defensive backfield. They're back there because the coaches have evaluated them and said, this is the group I want out here during this period of time. And there were fans on Monday that just dumbfounded me that were like trying to get Barry Switzer to agree with them.
Yeah, I saw that. I was going, you guys are working the wrong guy there.
Oh, man.
Barry knows more football in his little finger than we do, and you do. Even if you played high school ball, he knows more football than you do.
And there's one fan that he goes, well, Barry, I guarantee, it that we won't be seeing any 3-man fronts when it's 3rd down and 20 ever again. And Barry's response was, if you don't think the Oklahoma Sooners are going to have a 3-man front on 3rd and 20, you're out of your mind. It's not the set. It's what Texas did in that set, which said,
I'm surprised he didn't throw it. It's the Jimmies and Joes because
which he basically said it's the guy. They're not tackling. They ran through tackles.
Yeah.
It wasn't that there were 3 men rushing.
Well, even on the play they converted it was a 3rd and 21. They got 19 and they dragged OU 10 yards. It's a 4-yard catch.
Right.
So if Buki doesn't hit him, up around the shoulders and then, jump on his back and not one player goes to his legs, they stop him and they have to punt instead of going for it on 4th and 2.
Right.
And that's what Barry's talking about.
Right.
Texas didn't even try to really pick up the first down. They threw a 4-yard slant.
Yeah. And it was, it was a safe play was what it was. And that's what all the stuff that came out and how all the fans reacted, which was asinine. It was, I think it made a lot of the fan base look bad, but it is what it is. But you're the one, you broke it. I mean, as far as we're concerned, that's the first place we heard it, and it was it kind of rolled from there. I mean, can you tell us what kind of happened, or was it?
Well, I mean, after the game, obviously, the emotions are high. Mike's really distraught. It was an interesting press moment that we had with Mike, when he was basically saying, I'm having trouble reaching these guys, and these guys aren't responding. They're not listening. We had trouble getting lined up, and he went through this for about 8 minutes. What we've found out is that, he told Lincoln Riley, he didn't write up a written notice of resignation or anything, but he told him, he said, hey, if you want me to resign, I will. Of course, Lincoln at that time said, no. Lincoln and Mike are great friends.
Right.
It's like Lincoln's like a little brother, and there's no question about it. So they're great friends. And Lincoln said, hey, let's go home, go to bed. We'll sleep on it. Let's talk tomorrow morning. They met on Sunday and talked for 30 minutes, and they talked about a lot of different things, what to do on defense, some adjustments to make, and also should Mike continue as the defensive coordinator. Lincoln in the morning, I'm pretty convinced, was still convinced he wanted to stay status quo, and they would work together to right the ship, maybe make a few adjustments, a few changes, maybe even try to get bigger, go to a 4-man front and do some different things. And then I think Lincoln made calls to other important people in his life, people that he knows. I'm not sure who those are. Everybody thought that President Gallagher had met with him. That didn't happen. I don't think he contacted Bob and talked to Bob about it. I'm not sure exactly who he talked to. But by the time they met again in that evening, Lincoln, they talked again, and Mike had actually worked all day. Mike was looking at film. He was kind of working all day and getting ready for Monday's practice. And so he was up at the office, and they met again. And I'm not sure what happened in that meeting right there, but it was determined that, it'd probably be best for the program that, Mike resign or Mike, not be the defensive coordinator anymore. I think what really happened here is that, at that point, I think Mike had been attacked so much by everybody, media, every time he picked up a newspaper column, everything that was going on, that I think, especially after that game, he was so distraught. He apologized to everybody. He apologized during the media session. He apologized to Lincoln 2 or 3 times, that I'm sorry, that because he cares about OU so much. He loves OU so much. He's used to winning.
Right.
He's coached a group, from 2000 and 2004, nobody played better defense than OU except maybe the 73-75 Sooners, or maybe the 85 Sooners, or maybe the 55-56 Sooners. And I know there's been other good defensive teams. Alabama's played great defense, and Notre Dame's played great defense. But I'm just saying OU played some of the best defense in their history.
Absolutely.
And there's Mike and Brent Venables calling the calls. And, Mike got that opportunity to go to Arizona. Brent took over, and then, things started. And Brent did a great job, but, again, recruiting is a staff, not necessarily a position. But for some reason, they didn't get all, they lost out on some linebackers. But remember, Rufus Alexander is the Big 12 Player of the Year, so they kept getting them. You kept coming up with guys, and so it's not like they were void of talent, but everybody wanted Venables out of there.
Yep.
And so after 6 years, and Mike wanted to come back, or Mike, Bob was talking to him about coming back, Bob envisioned he and Brent together
doing it again.
Yeah, uploading this defense, and let's go, man. Let's get back to where we were. Well, from Brent's standpoint, I know Brent's thinking, man, that would be great. I love Mike, and this would be great. But if we do great and we become a top 10 defense again, it's because of Mike Stoops.
Right.
If we do terrible again, it's because I'm still on this team.
Oh, boy.
And I got a chance to go make $1 million at Clemson and run my own defense, and they're telling me I'm the guy and he's going to leave me alone. Well, great decision.
Yeah.
He's been at Clemson. He's now making $3 million a year. He's
and their
got
defense is
second
fantastic
contract.
every year.
He told me, can you believe it? A guy from a small town in Kansas, I'm a millionaire and I've got money, and my wife is actually saying, can I go ahead and get that lipstick? Yes, honey, you can. You can do that. It's okay. And and I caught Mike by surprise. Mike hadn't run a defense, especially in the Big 12, in a while. So he's trying to get up to speed, and as we all know, it was a rough start. But, And again, so the things that went down, it was a culmination of that.
Right.
And I think Mike was ready. Hey, if you need to make a change, make it. Let's work out the financial end of it. You make the change if you need to make it. I'll be okay. I probably need a fresh start anyway and need to recharge my batteries. And that's how they left it. And for Lincoln thought about it, thought about calling him back because he loves Mike. And, but he went ahead and he talked to Ruffin. Ruffin was ready to take it over, and that's how it went down.
Yeah.
I certainly like that story a whole lot better than what's been out there. I got to be honest with you.
Well, that's the story.
Yeah,
There's no other story. And again, I mean, I heard Coach Mike on radio today telling the story, and media still acting like, nope, I'm going to believe my own source. What do you mean your own source? I am the source.
Exactly.
I mean, if you can get
That's
the
what he
source
said.
on, that's the source, right? So, but anyway, that's what went down. There wasn't anything else.
And that's one of the after the game, we had we normally have a big crowd over here for the OU Texas game, and we had a big group. It was an all-day thing because of the fights. We were going to watch the fights that night, and Rob was with his boys, and they came over after the game. And that's one of the things Rob and I talked about. I was like, did you see, and you hadn't had a chance to see the press conference or anything. And I said, Mike was just dumbfounded. He looked defeated. You know what I mean? And the tone of his voice and it.
Well, he's never been a part of a defense that can't get off the field.
Right.
No matter what they do, they
no
can't
matter
get
what.
off the field. I mean, Army just drove it, and yet Lincoln was the one that wanted the basic defense, and Lincoln had just a conviction. In the end, we'll win it.
Right.
And they did.
Right.
I mean, it came true. I think Lincoln's a stud, man. I mean, sometimes, and I like what he believes. And that's why when he did this here, I'm not sure that he was totally convinced, but he just said it was in his gut. He goes, we just needed a new voice. We just needed a spark. He goes, I don't know where else to get it. This is the one spot I'm thinking we can get it. And he goes, when Mike agreed with me, I went, okay. We don't really have a choice here, so let's do this. And I love you, Mike. And, but he's got in charge now, his mentor. I mean, the guy that got him really going in coaching is Ruffin McNeil.
Right.
And, Mike Leach, but Ruffin McNeil, when he got that one shot to coach Texas Tech in the bowl game, who did he promote? He promoted, how old was Lincoln then? 24, 25?
Yeah.
He promoted him to.
Looks the same age now, though, doesn't he?
Right. And Lincoln coached a great game that day.
Yeah.
They actually pulled the upset and won. So then he gets the job at East Carolina, and the first guy he hires is Lincoln Riley. So they've been together a long time, and Lincoln has always wanted a football staff with Ruffin on it. And he's not afraid to put Ruffin in charge in these things because he's seen Ruffin do it before. That's the first thing kind of, Lincoln said when we met with him on Monday. He said, we've been down this road before. And the first thing Ruffin McNeil says when we talked to him yesterday, and he goes, Lincoln and I, we've been through this a couple of times.
Yeah.
In other words, at Tech, at East Carolina, starting up, taking over programs, taking over units. And I've talked to two or three people that played under Ruffin, and they say he's pretty amazing in this spot, how he does it. And that's all Lincoln is caring about is this year.
Right.
He'll worry about next year and what to do next year at the end of the year. He believes he's got a special team. He knows he's got a special offense and a special quarterback.
Special talent.
So he's rolling the dice here. This is an incredible move, one that he's sad about, one he hates to make. But if it can get this team to where it's supposed to be, it'll be worth it. And Mike will think so too.
Right.
It's not like Mike all of a sudden hates OU. That's not the case. He'll be rooting for OU every Saturday.
Yeah,
that's great.
And I heard him. I listened to both things after the fact today, and you could still hear that. I mean, he is 100% behind the program. Talked about the kids there now. He loves the kids. He wants the best for them. And it's still, to me, hearing him today talking with Dusty was you could hear it in his voice sometimes that he just doesn't know why he couldn't get it done, and that's what bothered him more than anything else was.
Yep.
I just couldn't get it done, and
because he would like nothing more for that to be a rock solid, let's kick some butt type of defense, and it wasn't, and they just couldn't get off the field. And he's got his thoughts as to why and what was going on, and but they couldn't make it happen. And he's the guy that everything fell on. It didn't fall on anybody else. So Barry Trammell wrote this morning in the paper that he fell on the sword.
Right.
And I think that's exactly what he did.
Right.
He said, okay, if this will cure all the ills,
Then
and you
I'm
guys
willing
will
to do it.
become a great defense again, then, hey, I'll be rooting for you. See you. And let's
Well,
go.
and I loved what Lincoln said about it too. Was he goes, his exact words is, "Damn sure not all Mike's fault. I have my responsibilities in it. The other staff does, the player does, but it falls back onto Mike."
Yeah, it falls
But-
right. That's
And I love that about
well.
Lincoln.
There's four
was,
defensive coaches. Are they all doing a great job? I mean, I love them all.
Right.
So we're gonna act like they are. But again, I thought Mike was doing a great job. What else could Mike do to change things up?
exactly.
He can't put together a better game plan because Lincoln signed off on it, and we asked Lincoln point blank, "Did you like the game plan?" "Yeah, I did."
Yeah.
All right, now that's a real smart dude
Right.
that likes the game plan. And he's looking at it going, "That's good. Boy, that's good. I don't want to play against that. That's good. That's good. All right, let's go." And then they can't execute it. Why can't they execute it? They worked on it all week. Texas is not that complicated. Why is Texas whipping your butt at the line of scrimmage? Why is your defensive line not holding at the line? You're certainly not getting into penetration, but you have to give up 5 yards? I mean,
And that's
what's
what was
going on
happening.
up front?
Right.
Why are the linebackers rushing in and all of a sudden running into linemen? Whatever happened of reading, hiding, ducking, spinning, going in, filling a gap? Why didn't they do that? Well, okay, you want to blame Mike for that? Well, he doesn't coach any of those positions.
Right.
But he likes all the coaches at that positions. He'll tell you Tim Kish is one of the best coaches he's ever been around. All right. So what's going on at all those spots? Kerry Cooks is highly thought of. Why isn't the secondary playing better? But everything falls on Mike because Mike doesn't coach any of those positions. He coaches outside linebacker, and Mark Jackson's one of the better players.
Right.
But he fell on the sword, and we'll see if it works.
Yeah.
Well, he's been the GOAT for
Yeah.
2 or 3 years now. So it didn't matter what was happening. He was going to get the blame, or that's what
Yeah.
I feel like.
What has been the players' reaction? I mean, it
Players
seems,
are like your kids; they're
Right.
resilient. When you come home and you tell your kids, "Hey, I lost my job today," or "We're getting divorced," they usually handle it better than everybody else, right? And they're usually back on the bike and going. So the players realize they don't have any choice in the matter, and so
strap it up and let's go. I mean, that's
I think Lincoln was majestic in what he told him this morning, that I'm doing this because I still believe we can win the championship, and and I hate it, and it's killing me, but I'm doing it for you guys, and it's going to turn out to be a good thing. If you love Coach Mike, just love him up, call him. I don't care if you go over to his house every day, but this is what we're going to do, and we think it's going to be better. Ruffin said the right things, and then the first day or two of practice was kind of a go out and have fun. Let's kind of have this. It was spirited. They kind of scrimmaged a little bit,
Yeah.
but it was kind of like, not necessarily ones-on-ones, just kind of like, hey, and they worked on tackling and they had a little contact, and Ruffin's a real positive guy. One thing that, maybe Mike's an old school coach.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, to me, that's okay. I said the other day, Jimbo Fisher grabbing my face mask wouldn't have bothered me because that happened to me all the time. And I would have gone, okay, I screwed up. I'm sorry. It's like I wouldn't have gone to my mom and dad. My dad would have said, "Why is he grabbing your helmet? You
yeah,
idiot?
that's what I was
did you
fixing to say.
do?" So that didn't bother me. Coach cussing at me doesn't bother me. So sometimes I have to catch myself and listen to these young people today and parents of these people today,
Right.
because I have to realize, like Mike has to realize, is that it's changed.
Right.
And I know Nick Saban is pretty old school, but he's kicking everybody's butt, so he can look at everybody and say, the way I'm doing it's working.
He can do whatever he wants.
Right.
Unfortunately, what happened to Mike and everybody to coach that way is that the results weren't matching up, so everybody started saying, maybe it's not the way to go
Right.
today.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know the real answer to that, but kids are different today. There's no question about it. They don't like being cussed at. They don't like to be dog cussed. They don't like to be hammered all the time. And Ruffin is a positive. He said it yesterday. We said, how are you going to turn this around? He says, well, number one, I'm going to keep it simple. He goes, I'm the simplest guy you know. He goes, I'm going to keep it simple. If they're simple, they run faster. If they're complicated, they slow down. He goes, so however simple we got to make it, that's how we're going to make it. And he said, we're going to work on tackling. And he goes, that's the only way to get it better. To work on it, think about it, practice it. That's the only way to get it better. And he said, thirdly, I'm going to love them up. Yeah. He goes, I'm a positive influence guy. He goes, okay, a guy screws up, I'm not saying I don't get mad at him or don't, have some tough love or something, but in the end, I'm going to tell him, hey, next time, go get it, and we're not going to give up on kids. And he said, I'm just, going to be, that's how I coach. He didn't say he was different than Mike. He didn't say anything. He was, except that that's how he coaches.
Right.
And I was pretty refreshed in what he said and how he said it. And he is different than Mike, though. There's no question about it. And guys I talked to about him say that he's refreshing, that they changed their lives. And, you start hearing things like that from people. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lady that works with me, has for years. Her son played for Ruffin at Texas Tech. And she loves the guy. And her son loves the guy. And when he took over down there, she was excited. And I know that she talked to me during that period of time that she was hoping he was going to get the full head coach job, and he ended up not. And she was upset about it. I mean, she said the way the kids responded to him and liked him. That being said, how, recruiting, how are the recruits responding?
Well, none of the recruits are upset about it. I like what I hear from these guys like Jaden Davis and some of these guys. Hey, I'm signed with OU. And for some guys, their coach is still there. And even though Mike was recruiting the kids out of Florida, Jacoby Jones, maybe, you worry about him. The JUCO guy, he wanted to play the jack if they go to the true 4-3 and only play the jack in passing downs or whatever. But he would be a great defensive end.
Right.
I'm sure they'll tell him that, hey, dude, you're 6'5", you're 253. You'll be 283 if you just come here and get on,
283 is solid muscle.
Right. And so, we'll get you going. So anyway, I don't think anybody's going to change or bail. Mike was a really good recruiter. And, but I can't believe, I would have to believe that Bob Diaco is really good and can get out there and make it happen.
Yeah. So any of the ones that we have, who are we looking at that we haven't already?
Well, I don't think
signed?
OU's going to get Marcus Stripling. Marcus Stripling, I heard, left at halftime and went to the A&M game and had to drive 3 hours to get there.
Yeesh.
Well, so you're going, okay, this is a real good game, and you're leaving this one.
Yeah.
So I know they want to get another pass rusher. They like Marcus Stripling. They want to get another running back. We know McIntosh was in, and I think they've got a great chance to get him. The JUCO offensive lineman that was in the other day, I thought he would already commit by now, but he hasn't, so I'm a little surprised by that. So, and I think they still have to get another. I know they're turning over rocks. Can they find another defensive tackle? Mm-hmm. That defensive end out of Texas that has all those vowels, and I'll let you guys try to pronounce his name. They've got a chance to get him. He'll visit Oklahoma State. And so, if they can get him, that would be a good high school defensive end to bring into the program. But I would hope that they try to get another big defensive tackle, just because you need more than one. I think Green's a really good one, but can they get another guy in that group? And I don't really have a name to give you guys.
Right.
I think they have to turn over rocks and find somebody, and they won't take somebody just to take them. Bernard's a 220 kid that they're in on, and they've got a pretty good chance to get. It looks like, Prince Dubai is a young defensive end that looks like he's leaning towards OU, and they're after a couple of other guys too. So they're off to a pretty good start in 220, but if Lincoln continues to say they have to recruit and build, that defensive front, he's got to do it through recruiting.
Right.
And, they had a great class last year. Now, see, Jalen Redmond's been cleared.
Yeah, I saw that later today.
So, I don't know if they're going to play him or not. I think that's going to be interesting to see. Blood clots are, they're not. You don't mess with him.
You don't.
And I know he's been cleared, and he's back out there, but he hasn't played in a long time in contact. So I don't know if you can throw him in against a talented team like TCU or not. Or
it's like riding a bike.
Is it? I don't know. Hitting offensive tackle is not like riding a bike. So I don't know. Maybe so, but anyway, so that's two guys, because Perkins is really good. And Riley Perkins, I think, will start at one defensive end now, and I think that you'll have Kenneth Mann at the other. But it's interesting. They have 5 or 6 spots left. They don't have to use them all, but I think they'll try to. don't be surprised if they don't try to find another defensive tackle somewhere.
Yeah. What do you think about the fans' concerns of, I've heard it called Texas Tech North offense?
I don't worry about that at all. I just don't, man. I mean, we can create all kinds of issues. Lincoln is hiring the best people he knows.
Right.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
He worked at Texas Tech and he worked at East Carolina.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of chuckle at that because that's kind of what we've been the last couple of years. Last year we outscored every team but two.
Well,
I mean, and it didn't come down to defense. It came down to, you can say it did, but we just couldn't outscore the two teams.
I do have a concern, and it has nothing to do with Texas Tech, even though Texas Tech runs into the same problem. But Tech never gets the defensive talent that OU does.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the difference in the two programs. OU is trying to recruit defensive talent. I think Tech recruits just guys to play defense because they have to fill the unit. So it's a difference in the way you do things. But when you run a spread offense, and even though Lincoln has a great run component in it, just check that. Look at all the past national championships.
Right.
National champions. None of them are running that offense.
Right.
Now, this is the first year Alabama's kind of running this offense, and look, all of a sudden their defense isn't quite as good as it was because it's hard to practice against this offense, and it's hard to practice against power running offenses when you can't do contact a lot anymore, and then you're getting your butt kicked by the offense every day in practice.
Right.
So it's an interesting deal. Lincoln wants a great defense. He's going to try to figure out a way to have it. He told me he wants to have a scorpion defense that when you come into play OU, you fear that defense. Well, he definitely doesn't have that right now.
Right.
And that's why he's made this change, the toughest change in his life, a change he doesn't want to make because he's trying to come up with a formula that will get him that defense. And he knows it's hard to win a championship having to score 60 points every game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He scored 45 points and put 536 on the board, scored 21 in 7 minutes and lost the game.
Lost the game.
And he's saying to himself, whoa, wow. Now, he's a team guy, and he doesn't blame the defense, and the offense didn't blame the defense. But, man, that's an eye-opener right there.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we've been talking about up until this point is that Oklahoma's offense up until this week, I don't know what the stats are because we rely on you. If you do follow Blinken Riley on Twitter, he throws some stuff out there.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, and we talk to him pretty regularly, and he said Oklahoma up until the Texas game, was scoring on average of every 9 plays.
Yeah.
And people were like, our defense is out there too much. And I'm still on this as well because our offense is only out there for 9 plays.
But see, you can't tell your offense not to score.
Exactly. What do you do? Do you tell Hollywood Brown to take a knee after 20 yards? Don't
because then you may not score. What if you fumble a snap?
No, you don't say don't
tackle
score.
blows an assignment. You've got to take it when you can take it. And I've just never bought in. That's why you need depth on defense.
Right.
And if I have any criticism about the coaching staff, it's play your guys.
Yeah.
Play your guys. Robert Barnes should be in every other series. Now he's going to start.
Yeah.
But Trey Brown should have been in every other series, and those 3 guys should have been alternating. Parker should have already been playing some for Buki, and Broyles should, since they only play that, but if he was playing all those snaps, whoever the backup there is, or move Buki down there, and
right.
and they needed to play their guys. They play them in the defensive front. But Perkins didn't get in until the 3rd quarter, and I didn't understand that against Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Or it looked like it to me. I might have missed it, but play your guys. You've got a lot of talent. You need to keep them happy anyway. And if you're playing 86 to 90 snaps a game because your offense is so good, play your guys, and you'll be better off.
They were gassed.
And OU doesn't always do that.
Yeah.
You're going to tell me that you can't move up Levi Draper and play him on the varsity and have him, spell Bolton some, or, you don't play Deshaun White, who you think is going to be a great player. Why not?
Yeah.
Is it going to be any worse?
Exactly.
That's my point.
Couldn't have been against Texas.
Right.
No.
The linebackers didn't have a great game against Texas, even though they finished with 13-10. And, it just wouldn't have made it any worse. In fact, they'll play better.
Yeah. And I think that may be, that's a great point, obviously, but that may the rotation of people in, I think, because the sets, I don't think they're going to change that much. They're already halfway through the season. They're not going to revamp and do completely different than what they have been.
No, because they've run a 4-man front,
Right.
and they've been running a 3. They ran a 4-man front against Texas. They just had a 238-pound defensive end in Mark Jackson.
Yeah.
So they need to change the personnel to fit it. That's why I think Perkins will play more. I think Amani Bledsoe might play some at defensive end. Maybe Isaiah Thomas gets a few reps, and
Right.
that way you can rotate guys in.
So now we got a week to wait, which is bad in two ways. We got to suffer through a Texas loss for 2 weeks, and now we got to wait 2 weeks with this change. And I say it tongue in cheek. Does Oklahoma come out and shut out TCU? Just shut them down. We finally see a defense that, or are we going to see the same thing?
What you hope to see is improvement, guys.
Right.
I mean, if you all of a sudden think you're going to see the 73 Sooners, I don't think the Selmans
That's
are
the
showing up.
problem.
I don't think Jimbo
the
Elrod.
Selmans are not on the sidelines.
You know this. There are fans out there that are saying that right now.
Yeah.
You will see the difference when this team hits the field.
Actually, you'll see the difference when they start recruiting the Selmans. I
Right.
actually did a podcast and said, "OU needs to recruit the Selmans."
Absolutely.
When they find
I'm sure
the
they got
Selmans, when they
grandkids
find-
and great-grandkids.
When they find Rod Schote, when they find Jimbo Elrod or Gerald McCoy, if you want to go with some later guys, you find Rufus Alexander. You find those guys, the 2000 defense. Where's Roy Williams? Where's
Right.
his clone? He's got to be out there because everybody else is getting one of those guys. Why isn't OU getting those guys? That's when it changes. Unfortunately, they'll run out the same personnel. It'll change a little bit with Perkins
Right.
maybe and Barnes at the safety, and maybe Trey Brown gets a start. So, maybe you roll some of those guys out. And what you're hoping for is that in 2 weeks they do tackle better, and if they do. It's like I said the other day about a house. If you got a house and it looks good, but you really want to spice it up, if you just paint it, that improves it a lot.
Right.
Every time. Well, if they tackle, they improve a lot.
Right.
Absolutely.
And and they get off the field on third down. So let's hope they do. But no, they're not going to hold them to 6 points or anything or 10 points. But if they can get 6 stops in the game,
Right.
That's
then
an
OU wins
improvement.
by 21.
And that's what I've been telling Terry.
Yeah.
They're going to play a little bit better, I think, just for the simple fact that their pride is hurt from that Texas game. And, they may have something to prove to their own selves now.
Right.
So,
And you said that the 6 stops. That's one of the things I've been preaching for the last 4 games.
Yeah.
Is this defense doesn't have to be great, okay? Because we have
for us to win, no.
Yeah, for us to because we have a phenomenal offense. If this defense can get 5 stops and hold a team below 28 points, it's a win.
Right.
And people are like, well, can they do that against Alabama? I don't know. We'll see when we play Alabama. But that's what they'll have to do to Alabama, whether they can do it or not.
But maybe Alabama can't stop OU either.
I don't think anybody can stop OU's offense.
So that's why Lincoln made the change. That's why he's doing what he's doing. He knows he's got an offense for the ages. He's had one for the last 2 or 3 years. He made it to the Final Four last year with a magical quarterback.
Yep.
And that defense actually gave him a chance to win.
Right.
And they didn't pull it off.
Right.
And, boy, that kicks him in the gut every day.
Yeah.
So, he's thinking this year, if I can just get back to that spot, because he's got a magical quarterback again. And, that's why he's making this change.
Yeah. We had Paul Miliazzo on.
Yeah, I saw that.
And he was sitting right there, and I'll never forget him talking about when the mentality of the Oklahoma defense when he was there changed is when they won the Big 8 championship, and they realized we're not about Big 8 championships anymore, or that's not what Oklahoma's about. And he said when we bought into what Coach Switzer was always telling them, and the whole coaching staff, is we're not just about Big 8 championships, we're about national championships. When basically what he said, Rob, wasn't it, when the national championship, when the Big 8 championship became a stepping stone to the national championship, is when they turned the corner.
Right.
And I think that's a lot of what this team needs to start doing last year, this year, and moving forward. It's like the goal isn't a Big 12 championship. The goal is to get past the Big 12
They're going to tell you that's what
win.
it is.
Yeah.
That it's the national championship,
Right.
but you have to win the Big 12 to get there. They're going to tell you that's what it is. It's surprising that they're so poor on defense because before the year started, I know they had great hopes for it being better, and they showed signs early.
Yeah,
and,
we've seen flashes of a good defense
and all of a
early.
sudden it's falling apart, and guys aren't tackling, and guys aren't getting better. So, that's going to be interesting moving forward.
Yeah.
See what they do.
That's. I'm trying to be optimistic, but the pessimism in me is, as I'm sitting back here going, the rest of this season, we're going to see games just like what we saw this past week. Not every one of them, but I think the West Virginia game is going to be the same way.
Yeah.
It's going to be just a.
West Virginia's 19th in the country defensively.
Ugh.
Now, are they good? That good? They haven't played Texas yet.
Yeah.
And, they still have some teams to play, but they haven't played Oklahoma State yet
Yeah.
either, have they? So
they're one less game than we are as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes a whole lot of difference, right?
I just feel like Oklahoma, they may be some improved. There may be, they get out on third down a little bit more, but an overall drastic improvement's not going to happen this year. And Oklahoma's still going to be in the same boat of maybe having to score 40, or like this weekend, they needed to score, 50 points or 49 points to win a game. What do you think that's?
Yeah, I think for the most part, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I'm like Rufus. I had Rufus on my show today, and he said, I'm scared. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Because I just don't know what we're going to be getting. And he goes, I really don't. He goes, okay, they changed alignment a little bit. Does that make all the difference in the world? He goes, I hope so. I don't know. Do they change this guy or that guy? He goes, I don't know. I hope so, because they have no place to go but up, he said. And, he said and so he's kind of curious.
Especially the red zone defense, right?
They haven't stopped anybody yet.
Nope.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes when Rufus was on the show, we talked about him, his All-American year, and it surprised me that he didn't know he was the 142nd
All-American.
All-American. He didn't realize that was it, because that was his number, 42. It was like, oh wow. And I talked about he made like 85 or 75 tackles that year. And he goes, hey,
the year he was All-American, didn't he make 116?
Something like that. It was and he goes, the reason why that number is so high is he goes, I got up fast. I got individual tackles because I wasn't having everybody piling on me and hurting me. So I made the tackle and jumped up and let everybody else fall over. He goes, it wasn't because, I just got there first. Just and got up quick.
That's the whole key, though. Yeah. You got there first and you made the tackle.
Right.
But, and so, anyway, it's I love what you said too, and this is really the first big coaching decision that Lincoln has had to make, and I think it's the right. I hate that it came in the middle of the season, but I think it's the right decision. Something had to be done. Something, whether you like Mike Stoops or you don't like Mike Stoops, what was going on wasn't working, and all we can hope for as fans, and just like Rob and I have tried to do all year long, is whatever the decision is to support it. Don't sit here and dog it because you don't like the results. Support it because you want it to get better. Because if Mike Stoops does a good job, we win. If Ruffin McNeil does a good job, we win. That's what matters. And that's all
that should matter. I mean, sure, this is something we got to cover, and we're going to have opinions about it. The OU fan is passionate.
Oof,
it's why kids come here. Mm-hmm. I'm a big Red Sox fan.
Yeah.
The Red Sox fans are passionate. When I go and I hear some of the things they say, I'm looking at them going, he's playing for us. The guy you're just dogging out there, and he's hitting 307. I mean, what?
That's a career. That's a career back
So, I'm going, and people, my family will remind me, you're not working in sport. I know, I'm just being a fan. I mean, I'm just kind of hanging out here. I said, I actually talk to fans a lot more like this than I do when I'm on the air. So, but the fans passionate, and I love the expectations. When it stops, and these podcasts, people aren't going to listen to them. They're not going to like it. So I hope it always goes, and that helps in recruiting. Those guys in California want to come and, and things like that. But, you can't get caught up in it though, or I can't, because I got to cover the team.
Right.
And they may not think the left tackle's any good, but if they do, and they're going to start him next week, I'm going to report it. He's starting next week. Well, that's stupid. Well, okay. Call, yell at Lincoln when he comes on the field, or Bill Beatonbow, whatever you're going to do. And remember, Bill's the best offensive line coach in the country. So get mad at him if you want.
Get mad at him.
But I mean, and that's what's funny about being a media person nowadays is that, you don't. You guys want to hear the truth? Or you want me to just let you just go off the deep end and, and say things. And then on Saturday you're going, well, how come that didn't happen? Because it wasn't the truth.
Right.
So, I mean, it's, but they can be better though on defense. I mean, they can be better because they're not very good and they haven't played better, but yet the players are better.
Yeah.
So they need to play up to their potential. Buki needs to tackle.
Yeah.
Tackle Buki.
They'll get there.
You know, now they're going to play him at the nickel a lot more. They're kind of moving him off the safety, which I think is a good move because he's more of a cover guy. That's why he became a 4 or 5 star player, covering guys, knocking the ball away, and,
right.
Being competitive and
I had a conversation today with a fan was like, well, don't you think they should move him to corner? And I'm like, dude, he is too small to be a corner. I mean, I know he's a cover, but we're already talking about our 5'11", 6 foot guys going up against 6'2", 6'3".
But you notice that didn't bother Trey Brown.
Yeah.
Use technique. Look back on the ball. You've got a 42-inch vertical jump. Get up. Knock the ball away. I mean, Trey Brown does. Yeah. That's why Trey's worked his way into the lineup.
Right.
I'm going, Robert Barnes done. Now, Robert's 6'1" or 6'2", so he's got some size on him. But, I mean, you got to play fundamentally sound,
right.
and we don't always do that.
Just for the record, mine's 4.2.
Good for you. Good for you. That's why you're not playing corner either.
That's right.
Yeah, they use a sundial to clock my 40 nowadays. So, but
he said he had a 42-inch vertical. I was like, mine's 4.2.
But and one of the things you brought up with the fans and being at a Boston game. I love going to OU games. And this is the first year I've been blessed to have season tickets, so I've gone to every one of them. But one of the downsides to me going to games is inevitably I get sat within 5 feet of the loudest, most obnoxious Oklahoma fan, not a visiting fan, that will scream at the top of his lungs at Mike Stoops or Lincoln Riley or Buki or anybody. And I've almost got into it before I turn around and just go, shut up, stop. Do you realize Mike Stoops is 9 stories above the building and cannot hear you?
Yeah.
But you're yelling at him, like he can. Just stop. Support the team.
Right.
Don't yell down at it. I was at a Texas game, an OU Texas game, and a fan started yelling. One of the players was trying to get the crowd up. And the guy stood up in front of me on his bench and yelled at him, you do your job. We know what ours is. I'm like, shut up, just support the team. That's what we're here to do. And I know we feel like we're entitled. And that's what I've always said is during the game, I'm going to scream and holler at the TV. I don't really scream and holler. I'm like, that me and Rob will talk back and forth like this. What are they doing? But in all, we want the team to win, whether it's Ruffin McNeil now or whoever. Support the team and tweeting recruits, tweeting stuff to the coaches and everything. It doesn't help anything. It may make you feel better as a fan, but
does it though?
It looks bad. It looks bad on.
Are those guys really fans that really tweet recruits? They can't be. I mean, or you're not a real fan, or you can't believe that helps you. There's a reason why, even if a kid decommits, the coaching staff never burns a bridge, and they always tell him, hey, good luck.
Yeah.
If you want to get back in touch with us, let us know, or they'll contact him every once in a while. What's up? Because they don't burn bridges.
Right.
They don't want you as a fan to burn them either. They don't want you to become obnoxious and rude and contact that guy, because believe me, in social media nowadays, these kids read it. And Mike Stoops said it today, and he's told me the biggest change in coaching football is social media. Because your kids are going to say things, and I don't know, I haven't talked to Mike about Buki's tweet, but I can't imagine with the football program that's real popular right now.
No,
and
I can't imagine. Yeah, with the head coach that's popular.
What is Buki saying that he wasn't trying hard with Mike Stoops, but now that Ruffin McNeil
he's going to try hard.
He's going to become the player we all thought he was going to be. And I don't know, I really don't know Buki. I talked to him quite a bit during recruiting. But we haven't talked to him since he's been at OU. They haven't let us. And, so I don't know what he's changed or anything like that. But I don't know. That was just a weird statement, and he's not playing that well. And, and I'm wondering what his teammates think about that. And, I wonder what the coaching staff thinks about that. I noticed he took it off in 40 minutes.
Yeah, pretty quick.
So somebody got a hold of him and said, take that down. But that was just a weird comment. And then Buzzy Bolton saying he's mad at the media and stuff. Well, find the 2 guys that came up with all that stuff, Buzzy, and that's who you're mad at. Don't be mad at me, because I had your back, and I told it straight. Find out the 2 or 3 guys that are reporting it and still insist on reporting it, and that's who you get after.
Right, and that's we were talking before. I had people message me, or message our, I say me, it's our Twitter account, and I run it. What's going on? I'm like, dude, I'm a fan just like you. I have no idea. Well, this is what I heard, X, Y, and Z. And I have a friend who was standing outside the locker room who was at a.
And how could that be?
Yeah.
How could you be standing right out the locker room?
Right.
Is your friend a media person or a photographer?
Or was in
or
the
CSC.
Well, here's what's funny. I have media people saying they saw it, and they're up with me in the press box.
Yeah. There you have it.
I'll have to point that one out to them.
Did they leave something out like, well, our photographer saw it, or I know the policeman that guards the, and he saw it. I mean, but when they're saying it, I'm going, well, you're sitting 4 seats from me,
Yeah,
and you didn't go down there.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking that,
Yeah.
I'm not a confrontational person. It's like, okay, guys, whatever, but I don't know.
Well,
if you saw it or
and
not.
that's what I told the several people or a few people that messaged us about it was I said, it's being blown out, and I meant it saying it like what I was saying earlier to you was listen to the people who aren't talking about it so much. Those are the people who know what's going on. Like yourself, there wasn't a post every other minute of the fist fight and this and this. It's like, don't just listen to what's going on. It's getting blown
Common
out.
sense tells you a few things. If Buzzy Bolton swung at a coach, he would not have played the second half, and he'd be suspended the next game.
Absolutely would.
Okay, if he took a swing, I don't care what Mike said to him. Okay, so we know that didn't happen.
Right.
If Mike took a swing, he'd be suspended by the university, and he wouldn't be coaching the second half either. Mike told me, and he said today on the radio, he goes, I never saw Buzzy Bolton.
Didn't even know he walked out of the locker room.
He goes, Lincoln was doing all the talking, and Lincoln was mad, and he's talking to the defensive guys. He goes, I didn't really get to make any adjustments or anything. He goes, and I had no idea that Buzzy even left, and if they say Buzzy went to the fair, I had no idea he did that until after the game, and I'm going, he did what? And, he goes, I didn't talk to Buzzy Bolton.
Yeah.
He goes, so we weren't yelling at each other, and I didn't talk to him.
Yeah.
Okay, well, all this is BS, and, and that's the source right there. And when Buzzy Bolton is saying, hey, the media's, mad at all you guys, and he's telling you that they were wrong too.
Yeah. And I even like what, when they asked Lincoln about him, he goes, it was way
heated.
Overblown,
he said.
Yeah, but he also said it was heated. He goes, but I've been in worse.
They said he'd been at worse when they were up 34-0.
That's what I was going to say.
And I think all the heat was coming from Lincoln.
Yeah.
So
he was mad.
And that's, as it turns out, the heat's coming from Lincoln. And, Mike said, yeah, I was mad. He goes, but I'm not talking to Buzzy. In fact, I didn't even see Buzzy.
Right. And, but.
He goes, why would I be mad at Buzzy? He goes, Buzzy was hurt most of the first half. And when he was in there, he was playing okay.
Yeah. So, it just. That again, social media, and then it gets, Well,
it's become, again, what I recommend to everybody is try to find the truth.
Right.
Try to find journalists you like and you trust, and see what they're saying and go from there.
Right.
It's getting more and more, and it's happening in our political system and everything else. And when you try to ruin the media or talk about fake news, and you try to talk about what's really truth or not. It's up to you as a fan. Find the sites that you really trust in the truth. Guys that vacillate and are all over the place. I mean, we had one reporter in the market say one minute that Bob Diaco was going to make the calls,
right.
and then he posted Ruffin McNeil's going to make them. Which one?
Yeah,
it's the two choices. So I mean, and again, media needs to wait, know what you're talking about before you post things, and you everybody as a fan needs to find the people you trust and want to be listened to, and go with it. I just some people say I'm too old school to still be doing this today and whatever. Well, journalism principles should never go away,
right.
because those principles are set in stone. I mean, our president can try to change it, or people can try to change it, but in the end, as long as the media system works, we can have checks and balances in this country, and that's in sports too. You know, colleges, you know, a lot of college football programs are shutting out the media for a lot of things, and they get mad when you report on stuff and you have sources and things like that. But that's the way it goes. If you don't have that ability to do that, then you don't find out the problems in basketball, and you don't find out some of the things that are going on. And that's why the media has a place here. But I recommend all fans find a guy you feel like is still trying to cover the beat or cover it right, and then that's who you pay attention to.
And I want to end on that, because in our opinion, that's you.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
You know, seriously, because
for years and years.
Thank you.
You know, I've been trying to. You know, I'm not very eloquent. You know, I sit here and I was looking at Rob a while ago when you were talking. And I was like, he's saying all the same things we are, but just so much better. I mean, it sounds so much better coming from him.
I don't know about that.
But there are a lot of radio shows out there, and and I listen to a lot of them, and a lot of them are for, you know, they're fun and they're funny to listen to. But when I want to listen to where I want to know the facts and really what's going on, this is where I've always turned.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
I mean, yeah, I can listen to guys make fun of each other all day long. Me and Rob do that all day long. But when I'm like, really, what's really going on? Boom. And that's why when you dropped it, and the rest of the time, I just kept watching your feed.
Well,
going.
I wouldn't have believed it had I not seen it coming from you.
So, you know, that's, you know, you're one of our, you know, if not our reliable source when it comes to really what's going on. You've covered this team for ever, and you don't look like you should have been covering them 1975. That's for dang sure. But
well, I appreciate that.
But
so how do I get to your podcast again?
And especially when I'm doing video now, I thought about hiring, you know, a pretty, girl at school or something like that. And, you know, because that's what ESPN is doing. That's what everybody's doing, you know.
Right.
And, hey, I want you to do my podcast. I will feed you all the information, and, you know, we'll do it this way. Instead, my ugly mug's up there all the time. But it's a Patreon page, and it's Die Hard Sooner Report. So go to Patreon or James Hale Die Hard Sooner Report, and that's how you can get onto it. You know, what a Patreon page is that you support, you know, you support what they call an artist. I'm considered an artist and whatever, and I'm doing something a little different, and they've even let me know this is a little different. We'll see how it works. You know, I'm basically taking a news source and putting it on, you know, a Patreon page, and, you know, and so it's, you know, it's $5 or whatever you want to donate to the deal, and you get it unlocks every single podcast I do, and I'm doing several a day. And then, of course, I'm doing radio at KREF every day from 11 to 2. And I'll have Coach Mike on my show on Friday at 12:19, so that'll be fun. And you know, we've got that going, and then of course I'm writing also for the Football Brainiacs. And you know what I've learned about the Brainiacs, they've got a lot of guys like me that really want to work sources, and they don't post it unless they get it 2 or 3 guys, and that's the way to do it. And I've enjoyed working with him so far.
Jason is one of our favorites. He's a good buddy of ours. We've had him
Trench
on.
Warfare is awesome.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
And he knows what he's talking about.
Boy, does
and
he ever. I've told him that. I said that's a read. You know, some of my greatest dealing with players is, you know, the Jimbo Elrods and the Thomas Lotts of the world and people like that, because they break it down like that. You learn so much about the game that you wouldn't know about.
Right. Mm-hmm. And me and Rob want to let you know, too, that if you ever need somebody to carry your luggage,
hey, I'll call you guys.
You know,
sounds like your wife's trying to get rid of you anyway. So
that's about all we're qualified.
Yeah, about your luggage. Hold a notebook, or go plug your phone in to recharge. You just give us a call. We won't charge you anything. We'll just hang around. You know, we'll even wear a shirt, you know, that says, you know, we work for James or whatever you want it to say. If you ever need any help, just let us know.
He's tried that before. Nobody's
taken us up on it. So, but that's the podcast for today. We appreciate everybody listening. Boomer Rob,
Boomer Jerry,
and Boomer James.
Hey, Sooner.
Thanks for listening to the Sooner Football Fans Podcast. Hit the subscribe button right now on whatever app you're listening to download every episode as they come out. Check us out on Twitter and Facebook and on YouTube. Boomer Sooner.